Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video, man. It's been a while. And I guess you already saw from the title who we're talking about today. We're talking about the one, the only, the Kardiac Kid himself, Wes Lee. And before y'all head into the comments talking about Wes Lee's heel turn and how it's justified and how it's this, that, and the third, this ain't about the heel turn in general. We're talking about more than that. We're talking about, more importantly, their history as a faction between them being baby faces, heels, and the various occasions where they could have been tag team champions, but within those 6 to 7 tries at being champions, only at one point they became champions, sadly. But that's besides the point. Let's get into this video. Well, people, welcome to 2018. As Roman Reigns just announced that he has leukemia and was forced to relinquish the Universal Championship. But not only that, Dean Ambrose turned on Seth Rollins on the exact same night. But as sad as that announcement was, it didn't take away from how bad the TV was at the time. And not only that, it signified that the Shield was officially dead. Alleged. Aside from that reign of terror that was the 2010s of WWE, specifically the late 2010s, WWE was in legitimate purgatory. But as the old saying goes, out with the old and in with the new, as I was looking for an alternative and AEW wasn't around yet, so very hard to come by. But I did come around to see this new and up-and-coming 3-person TNA faction known as the Rascalz, which includes Desmond Xavier, Trey Miguel, and Zachary Wentz. As these 3 goofballs were the reason as to why I was watching TNA on a daily basis. From the fluent, innovative, and creative offense as a tag team, really got me hooked and engaged to what they were cooking on a daily basis on Impact. And it's even crazier to think that 2 of their more signature tag team moves got implemented into a 2K DLC pack around the same year that they debuted for Impact. Don't even get me started on how charismatic and relatable they all were at the time that I was watching them, at least. Aside from what their characters were based off of. But that didn't really matter, as they took whatever that they were given and they ran with it and they made it great. Now, if I had to recommend you a match, it ain't a tag team match for sure. It's a 3-way match between all 3 men gunning for an opportunity to go up against LAX at Slammiversary. That match was not only the first match that introduced me to the Rascalz, but it was the first match that I saw all 3 members of a faction go up against one another without betraying one another. That's crazy in itself. It also showed me how versatile they are and how they can easily reflect off of one another when it comes to doing a spot or doing a crazy move, a dive, anything. And they made it just completely enjoyable to watch. Fast forward to 2020, as the world has changed in many more ways than one, as the Rascalz had their final match in TNA. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. I saw it too. Rich Swann was indeed the TNA World Champion around this time. Just crazy. It makes me depressed to know that 5 years later, this took place in front of no fans in the pandemic era. But Rascalz did what they could and made the best of it, and they sent their final goodbyes and Rascal hellos out of the Impact Zone. After the emotional departure of the Rascalz, a couple weeks go by and there's speculation and a bunch of words going out of 2 Rascal members potentially joining WWE. And not too long after that, we got the full confirmation in 2021 as the debut of the rebranded Rascalz No More. MSK, Nash Carter, and Wes Lee make their debut in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Now, around this time, I was still wrapping my head around the fact that MSK, or aka the Rascalz, are in WWE. I was shocked. I was flabbergasted over the fact that they were having matches with the NXT Tag Division almost every single week. And it just was surreal to me for such a long time. But they climbed all the way to the mountaintop as they became the new NXT Tag Team Champions and the 2021 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic winners. Fast forward a year later, and this part of the video is going to be very painful for me to talk about. After losing the tag team titles to Imperium in 2022, they regained them back at Stand and Deliver that same year, but under one untimely circumstance, they have to relinquish the championships. But hold up, there's more. There's more, sadly. WWE 2K22's Stand Back DLC pack was supposed to include Hurricane Helms, Stacy Keibler, A-Kid, Nash Carter, and Wes Lee, aka MSK, in one DLC pack. And this had me so pissed off when I got the news that Nash Carter was released from WWE. But besides my anger getting in the way of how I truly felt about everything, and me looking into the situation more, there was a concrete and valid reason as to why Zach, aka Nash, wasn't in the game. And it's painful to me to say, but it is what it is, you know? Besides Wentz getting fired, Wes Lee still made the cut for the game. And honestly, from what I've heard, he sounded pretty fun to play as. Back then, even though it was sad to lose Nash and lose MSK and lose the Rascalz in a video game, that whole situation is still responsible for creating and molding what Wes Lee is today. Not too long after that, in October of 2022, there was a ladder match held for the North American Championship, as it was relinquished by Solo Sikoa, and the victor of that match was none other than Wes Lee. And honestly, that was like the last person that I expected to walk out of that match holding that championship high. I thought Carmelo Hayes was going to become the two-time champion. I thought goddamn Von Wagner could have been a champion, but Wes Lee, I'm glad that he became a singles champion. And my God, the run that he had, amazing. Majority of his runs started out with open challenges, trying to get the locker room out and trying to get some exposure for some guys. But the main matches that I want to talk about is the 5-way, which was a complete banger. The Dijak feud was a banger until we get to Dominic Mysterio. Yeah, he loses the strap to Dominic Mysterio, which it wasn't a bad decision, but it is what it is. He had a great match with Mustafa Ali at Great American Bash in 2023. But Wes's run in general was an all-timer, honestly. Besides the main feud that I just mentioned, it was an amazing title run and probably one of the best title runs besides Obafemi, obviously, that came along. But I believe that this was not only the start of what was to come 2 years later, or maybe a year later, actually, I should say, but it's what developed some sort of alone and depressive side of Wes Lee. But around the same time in the summer of 2023, the dawning of the heel Rascalz. Yes, sir. I ain't fooling you. The Rascalz were heels and bad guys at one point, as Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz are back together around the same time as Wes Lee was having his historic North American title run, as these two were tearing it up in the tag division as they took out Chris Sabin, who was the X Division champion at the time, and made a statement, as well as taking the championships away from Subculture and becoming tag team champions for the first time in TNA, which is crazy to think about. But at Bound for Glory 2023, the odds were not in the Rascalz' favor, as they dropped the tag team titles to ABC. And honestly, I was down for the change, but I really wish they held them a little longer. A year after, and Wes Lee is struggling to find himself, and he wanted to quit, and he wanted to go home and walk away from everything that he's done. But a couple old brothers convinced him otherwise to let him stay, and they share an emotional hug in the middle of the ring. I was trying to keep my composure the entire time watching this whole thing unfold live, but it made me shed a few tears in joy and overall just elated to the fact that the Rascalz are actually back. And in 2024, it was crazy. What happens next, though, is something that I didn't really want to happen, but it made for such good TV. Fraxium went up against MSK in the Great American Bash Night 2 main event, and my God, this match was so good on so many goddamn levels. Oh my God. But what made it hard to watch was the ending of the match. God damn it, Wes. NXT and TNA pulled off what was one of the most emotional and psychotic heel turns of 2024, and it broke my heart to the very core. And it pissed me off a lot to think that I honestly thought that Trey and Wentz were going to turn on Wes Lee. Because if you think about it, and I'm going to put this in perspective like really fast, Trey and Wentz were already considered heels before returning or debuting on NXT TV. I thought in my mind at the time that, okay, they might be setting up for a heel turn between Wentz and Trey, so they can go back and have a feud with Wes, and Wes can be the babyface, and they can have a huge blow-off. But they reversed me. I thought that, looking back at how everything unfolded and how everything unraveled, it personally made me believe that Wes Lee was truly heartbroken And when I talked about earlier that there's something going to be different than ticked inside of Wes Lee, this was pretty much it. And it made so much sense because Wentz got released. Wentz was gone, and Wes Lee had to fend for himself. He had to go up against many challenges. He had to persevere through a bunch of obstacles that were in his way. He became the NXT North American champion. He almost became the NXT champion against Carmelo Hayes. And there was many times where he felt like he was on the brink end of just saying, screw it, I'm going home, I'm done. But he kept on fighting. And then there was the time where he was almost going to quit, but he chose not to because Wentz and Trey came back to help him and be there for him. But it was already too late because Wes Lee was already down that path in reality. But for Wes, it was mainly just a nostalgia trip. After the heel turn, he immediately explained that Wentz and Trey came for the NXT rub, and that's it. And that's all they wanted from him. They didn't want to really care or nourish for him, but Wentz pulled up a bunch of personal and really factual promos mentioning that when Wes had to undergo surgery for a back injury that he sustained in 2023, he was there for him. He did everything he could to help him out. He was there as his brother off screen, but he couldn't be there on screen for him. But Wes Lee did not give a damn at that point. But for this feud in particular, those two matches that Wentz and Wes had, it was literally do or die. As Wes Lee got the last laugh at the CW premiere for NXT and made it apparent that he did not want to deal with the Rascalz no more after that. Wes Lee nowadays in 2025 has his own group of pupils, if you will, in Tyreek Igwe and Tyson DuPont, as he's pretty much taking them both under his wing, as they're both two rookies from NXT that nobody really knows about as much, but he's been giving them a big, I guess you could say, platform for them to really work on, especially for them going to TNA and then back to NXT each week, which is really good. And they had a match at Sacrifice against the Rascalz and Ace Austin, which ended up being Zachary Wentz and Trey and Ace Austin taking a dub there. I'm wondering if this is the end of the feud here, as this was the most recent match that they've had together in the ring against each other, and I'm wondering if this is it. And if it is, it was a great feud, and I really hope they revisit again at a potential Worlds Collide pay-per-view for NXT and man, this whole collaboration, it's been a W for me so far. We got Joe Hendry at the Royal Rumble. We've had Cora Jade go up against Masha Slamovich. It's been just nothing but just good vibes so far. But overall, though, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to let me know how y'all feel about these commentary videos, and let me know what y'all want to see in the future, and I'll catch y'all later. Stay easy and stay chill. Peace. Love y'all.